Welcome to Blueprints Unsealed, a series of reflections and thought depicting the life and times of society's most influential people, ideas, and culture. Why is society so susceptible to manipulation? Really, every last one of us, at any given moment, under the right circumstances, nobody truly knows the evil we're capable of doing. In large group settings, we stand the greatest chance of losing our ability to self regulate, or in other words, to make rational decisions, especially when such gatherings are fueled by high tension or excitement. Under these circumstances, an individual is likely to adopt a mob mentality, which is a phenomenon in which you observe that as a group behavior becomes violent, the larger the group, the more magnified the violence. This phenomenon has occurred throughout the human history, whether it be witch burning that resulted from the Salem trials, the millions that died during the Christian Crusades, political protests and upheaval, or violence that occurs after a major sporting event. So, was this mob like mentality the reason for the horrific deaths that occurred during the Travis Scott's infamous Astroworld concert? In short, experts are saying no. According to the media, this incident resulted from a phenomenon called crowd surge. In a nutshell, this is when the force of the crowd in the back row makes its way up front. But when there is nowhere else to go, the occupants in the front ultimately gets crushed between the crowd and the stage. Under these circumstances, the crowd may not be aware as to what is occurring until it becomes too late. So, if the crowds are so focused on the main attraction that they lose sight of literally anything and everything else that is going on around them, what can cause this to occur? Was it the allure of the idol, or was it the result of something much more intentional? One popular theory that is gaining some traction suggests that Travis Scott may have been practicing some form of satanic ritual. Many have pointed out the numerous symbols that links to the Illuminati. There's even talk about blood sacrifices. However, this is not the point of this segment. Rather than try to find a motive of why the tragic event occurred, the aim here is to show how susceptible the masses are under the right conditions. Statistics show that between 5 and 10% of people are susceptible to hypnosis, while up to 79% of the population are considered moderately susceptible. Evidence show that children and young adults are more prone to hypnosis. Reason being, at that age, we are more open to suggestions and have active imaginations. Just so happen that the average age of Travis Scott's fans are teens to young adults. In addition, psychologists believe that our teenage years and early adulthood is a pivotal point in our lives. It is at this stage we establish our relationships, social life, and begin to shape the way we think about ourselves. One of the most important dynamics of our lives is our social interactions. At this point, we tend to take praises and criticisms from our peers close to heart. This can lead to peer pressure and force us to do things against our will. Ironically, it is at this crucial point in our lives that we may rebel against parents and other authority figures that have been influential to us in our lives. And depending on who your friends are and the people that you choose to idolize, it may have a lasting impact on the rest of your life. If this sounds like brainwashing, that's because it technically is. In fact, brainwashing typically involves a blend of attraction and coercion that subverts a person's sense of integrity and inoculates a new set of values. Therefore, when you take a close look at Travis Scott, known for his salacious and insidious rhyming approach, but more importantly, Travis Scott has a history of embracing violence and people getting harmed in his presence. And yes, he is fully aware of this capability. In summary, Travis Scott embodies the rebellious sentiment that today's youth is looking for, but of course, it's deeper than that. There's an old saying that hindsight is 2020. This emphasizes the clarity that people have about their past decisions, as opposed to the uncertainty before they make the decision. However, we have a tendency to look back at the past, not as it was, but how we imagined it. In fact, every time you attempt to remember a past event, It is said that we alter certain details in our memory. With that said, I think it's important to point out certain things I've noticed about Travis Scott. So please keep in mind that this is just my opinion on the matter. For starters, as many of you already know, that Travis Scott is just his artist name. His real name is Jacquees Berman Webster II. His stage name is the namesake of a favorite uncle, combined with the first name of one of his inspirations, Kid Cudi, whose real name is Scott. However, I think there's a deeper meaning to his stage name. Let's start with his first name, Travis. It is of Old French origin, and it means to traverse or to cross. While the name Scott can be traced back to an Old English explorer who reached the South Pole, but subsequently died on his voyage back home. Two names that somehow intertwine in meaning. Next, we focus on the progression of his albums. His first debut album was called Rodeo, followed by Birds in the Trap. Then came Astroworld, and his newest album is called Utopia. To me, this all symbolizes that Travis views himself as a traveler, but not just any ordinary traveler, more like a multi-dimensional explorer, where his first album, Rodeo, is about him taking the show on the road for the people to watch. His next album, Birds in the Trap, to me seems like a prequel to his first album. And of course, the infamous album Astroworld is when things start getting really interesting. At first glance, this album may come off as a playful gesture. The album cover depicts a giant-sized bronze replica of Travis' head that appears to be the entryway to what looks like an amusement park. It also includes images of children that appear to be enjoying themselves. However, when you begin to analyze the album cover, it starts to take us on a darker course. For one, it appears that one of the kids has the same features as Chucky, the demon doll. Second, the entryway into the theme park, which is through the bronze head, appears to hold fire deep inside the mouth, as if it symbolizes the gateway to hell. Then to the left of the entryway, there appears to be a statue of a man that is chained to a giant boulder. Does this imply that the price of admission is your soul? But why is this important? It's because it has a sinister undertone. The album cover is deceitful at best, which may be indicative as to the content of the album itself. In closing, the events that unfolded on that fateful day at the Astroworld concert was awful and tragic. But what makes this event truly upsetting is the realization that perhaps it could have all been prevented. As far as it being some type of satanic sacrifice, I haven't seen any evidence to convince me of the matter. With that said, there's plenty of sources out there that believes otherwise. But there is one thing I do believe. We must truly scrutinize who we or our kids idolize. Unfortunately, there are celebrities out there that do not have our best interests at heart. They are inherent risks when it comes to large crowd gatherings. And when you have individuals that continue to elicit reckless behavior from the crowd, at one point do you realize or determine if it's worth even going to these events? For my final thoughts, I grapple with the idea of whether I believe if the events that unfolded were intentional. And after giving it some thought, I will say this. I don't want to believe that any of this was intentional. It's just too cruel of a thought. But then I ask myself a rhetorical question. How many times can one make the same mistake before we consider it intentional? Thanks for watching. Please consider supporting the channel by hitting the like button and subscribing.